Good afternoon. Welcome to Inside Indiana Sports Now with Kent Sterling. It's Thursday, April 22nd, 2021. We're brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Dr. Mike O'Neill, the best dentist in the business, the best dentist I've ever seen, the only dentist I've gone to the last 27 years. Make him your dentist today. All you have to do is call 317-849-2933. Hit subscribe, hit like, ring the bell. Do it all. Let's talk about sports. First, we're going to talk about the Indianapolis Colts. Then we're going to talk about something that might be a little bit interesting for the Indiana Hoosiers. Indiana basketball's got a bit of a decision to make in terms of how it recruits. It's got something to do with the one-time transfer rule where you're immediately eligible. I think this is where college basketball is headed. We'll talk about that in a minute. The Colts, it seems to be, they are likely to trade back. That's what we think anytime we talk about Chris Ballard as the GM of the Colts. What is he going to do? Well, he's going to trade back because that's what he likes to do. He likes them picks, right? He likes having more picks rather than fewer picks. That makes sense because the more chips you have covering numbers at a roulette table, the more likely you are to hit. And that's what Chris Ballard knows. The more picks you have, the more likely you are to hit on some of those picks. Statistically, you're not going to hit on all of them. Nobody is that smart. You can't be held accountable for the picks you miss on. You are held accountable for the picks you make. And so, what Chris Ballard wants is as many as he can get. He's got the 21st overall pick right now in his pocket. Who are the potential trade partners who could give him what he wants for that 21st overall pick? How about the Browns? They've got the 26th overall pick. So you give 21 to the Browns, you get 26 back, you get 89 along with it. Third round pick, kind of back end of the third round, but still a third round pick, and maybe 110 in the fourth round. If you deal with the Saints. Saints have got 28. You could get 28, 98, and 105. I don't think you want 60 instead of 98 and 105. 60 is at the tail end of the second round. What do you want that pick for? The Chiefs, you could get 31 and 63. I don't like that trade, tell you the truth. The Jaguars are interesting, and if they weren't in the Colts division, I think this is a pretty good partner. You get 33 and 45 from the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think it'll get done because it's within the division, and one way or another, that trade's going to make somebody better, and it's damn likely it's going to be the Indianapolis Colts because, let's face it, they're a better-run organization. How about the Miami Dolphins, though? 36 and 50. You combine that with 54 with the Colts, you could wind up with 3 starters. And here are some guys to keep an eye on, all right? Because you're not going to be able to get everybody you want. You're not going to be able to get one of the top-level left tackles and one of the top-level edge guys. You're just not going to be able to do that. So here's a guy. And then we're going to talk about a potential fourth-rounder that the Colts could go get, a guy who's a project, but man, what tools does he have? The first guy we're going to talk about is an edge rusher out of Houston. It is Peyton Turner. Peyton Turner is big. He is tall. There's room for him to hang more meat on, for him to get stronger. He ran a 6'7" three-cone drill, which is off the charts. That's crazy for a man of his size. That just doesn't happen. That's in the 99th plus percentile among edge rush guys. The other guy we're going to talk about is an incredibly fast wide receiver. His three-cone was 6.86, 16/100ths of a second slower than Peyton Turner. Peyton Turner has huge hands. He's long. He's violent. He plays to the whistle just like Matt Eberflus covets. And he's a guy with a chip on his shoulder because coming out of high school, he had an injury his senior year, was not recruited at a high level. The only school that offered him, there was interest from other schools, but the D1 school that offered him was Houston. He took that offer. He has played his ass off. He gets to the quarterback a lot. Peyton Turner is one of those guys that the Colts may turn to in the third round if they execute a trade where they pick up a third-round pick or one of their second-round picks. They could get Peyton Turner, and Peyton Turner might wind up being more productive than some of the high-ceiling, low-floor guys that we've been spending a lot of time talking about over the last month. You talk about a guy like Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips, it was recommended that he retired from football just a couple of years ago because of concussions. You want to spend a first-round pick on him? If he stays in football and he doesn't pick up any more dings, you know what? You look really smart doing it. But if he does get another concussion, you could lose him potentially forever. Talk about a guy like Jason Away. I talked about him this morning. I love Jason Away. He has a physical toolbox that is incredible. You don't see edge rushers ever run a 4.36 40. Ever. He's big. He's rangy. He's got some bend to him. He's got everything that you want in an edge rush guy. And yet, in 7 games this past year for Penn State, he got to the quarterback exactly donut. No times. No sacks. He was still a first-team All-Big Ten player, but he never got to the quarterback, at least not while he had the ball. No sacks. So you've got a lot of guys you could either hit big on or you could miss big on. Peyton Turner is a guy that you could hit big on. However, it's not going to cost you a first-round draft pick. The other guy I want to spend a little bit of time talking about, we spent some time on like a month or 6 weeks ago, and that's Simi Fehoko out of Stanford. He's 6'3", 6'4", depending on who you believe. He's 222 pounds. He ran a 4.42 40. He looks great on tape, or he looks terrible on tape. He gets off the line great. He's not just straight line speed like a lot of these guys who run a quick 40 are when they're 6'3", 6'4", and you think, man, but you watch him kind of move. You watch guys move, and they don't have that quick turn kind of acceleration thing going that you need to create space. Fehoko does have that. Quick, comes out of cuts very, very quickly, uses his hands great. There are very few corners who can, kind of jam him on the line with any kind of regularity. So this is a guy who on tape can go up, one-handed catch, brings it down. Hey, that's wonderful. But then you got plays when you watch him where he had 6 drops this past year, and they were all really catchable, and they all kind of just doinked off his chest. You don't want that kind of guy, right? Do you want the game on the line with that kind of guy and a ball doinking off his chest? No, you don't. This is a guy who at this point, scouts say, is not really an NFL quality wide receiver yet. However, he's got the tools to become one. And so, as the Colts are looking kind of down draft, trying to figure out who they want to invest in, maybe a 4th-round pick, Fehoko could easily be a guy that they target. And over the course of this season, kind of try to coach him up to be a deep threat guy, be a long guy who can go out and catch jump balls. This is a guy like that. If you've got Fehoko on one side, given development, and then Michael Pittman on the other side, you've got something. So just a couple of names to keep an eye on as we continue to discuss the guys at the very high end of the draft, maybe for the Colts. It's important to keep an eye on the low-end guys, too. I always like Fehoko. I like Walker Little as a potential left tackle for the Colts. He might fall all the way to the 3rd round. He could be taken late in the 1st, early in the 2nd. It's all over the map. Some general manager, I think, is going to fall in love with the guy, and off we go. Now, I want to talk about Indiana University, and I want to remind you in the middle of this, hit subscribe. Do that if you haven't already. Okay, if you're Indiana University and you're Mike Woodson, and the NCAA, as they have, has just passed legislation that's going to allow immediate eligibility for transfers the first time they do it. Maybe what you want to do is look at the mid-majors as a minor league, kind of a breeding ground for the guys that you want to bring in. Why are you going to go out and bring in a guy who, as a freshman, really doesn't project to do much for you, when you can go out and you can get a junior who played his last 2 years, say at Ball State or at Akron or at Toledo. I'm going to all MAC schools, but you know what I mean. All those kind of second-tier schools, somebody from Loyola. You can go to the Valley and get guys who transfer once, come in at the age of 20 or 21, and they're ready to compete for you. They understand what college is. You're not going to have to kind of tell them how college works and kind of move through those growing pains that are part and parcel with everybody who comes to college. You go out and get guys, and who wants to recruit high school kids? You got to go to high school games. And then you got to go to AAU tournaments all summer long or all spring long. And you're just sitting there in a gym for 8 hours watching guys because you want to see one guy. Why? When you can go out and get a better player now, not better than what that kid's going to be 2 years down the road, but a better player now who's already done what he's got to do. He's already learned how to be a college student. He knows what it is to work really hard in the weight room and play good defense. Why invest scholarships in a kid like, and this had nothing to do with the kid, all right, but a high school senior like Christian Lander last year, when you don't think you're going to get a hell of a lot out of him at the age of 17 or at the age of 18, playing against Big Ten competition? Would Indiana have been better off if this rule had been passed a year ago, going out and getting a guy from Ball State or Indiana State or Loyola or Drake? Of course. So why not do that? Why not look at the mid-majors as a breeding ground, kind of a holding area for basketball players so you don't make mistakes on kids and you don't have to slog through freshman years? Look at what Armand Franklin was wonderful as a sophomore in the Big Ten, right? But as a freshman, not so much. He hit 27% from beyond the arc, right? Or something like that. Christian Lander hit 27%. How about we wait for 2 years until these guys have worked really, really hard at shooting, have become proficient shooters, know how to play college basketball, and then can come to Bloomington and you can take advantage of their gifts. You know, there are a lot of schools out there who have taken great advantage of the one and done rule that the NBA enforces. Duke, Kentucky, a lot of schools have gone out and grabbed guys who are going to be in the NBA once they're eligible for the draft. Here is a place where I think early adapters can move into the mid-major area, scoop up the guys they want, and build a team that's going to be able to compete today. I think it's an interesting idea, and it keeps you from going to these high school games like it's your job, because it is your job. I think it's kind of an interesting thought that you don't recruit high school guys anymore. Recruit the college guys, right? Go to Muncie or watch on TV. Everything's on TV. You can scout a kid thoroughly based upon his first 2 years of college basketball. And then you scoop them up and you bring them down to Bloomington and off you go. We've seen it. Parker Stewart, right? Xavier Johnson, right? We've seen it with Miller Kopp. Go get guys. You don't even have to wait until their sophomore year. You can wait until they're done with their junior year. You're trying to win each year. It's not about building a program anymore. And those teams that were scooping up kids who are NBA ready but prohibited by the NBA from entering the draft because of their age restriction, they're jumping to the G League now. So what is the point of employing an 18-year-old when you can employ a more polished version of that 18-year-old at the age of 20? He might not have the raw physical gifts as the 18-year-old, but he's not going to screw up either. You're going to be able to win, and win now, by utilizing the best of the best from the mid-majors instead of going out and really investing a year or 2 years in a kid, get him in the weight room and get him to develop his skill level, his conditioning, and his maturity to where he can help you win games. I don't know whether it works, but I think it's a hell of an idea. And if I'm Mike Woodson, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, that Sterling guy, he's got a hell of an idea. I don't want to go to high school basketball games every night. I want to spend some time with my family, So how about I stay home, I watch the MAC game of the week tonight, and I see if I like any of these kids. And then if I do, I pick up the phone, I tell somebody that kid knows, hey, if that kid wants to come to Indiana, we got a scholarship for him. Genius. That's why you come here, for the love of God, and that's why you're going to come back. Tomorrow morning, Breakfast with Kent, bright and early, 6 o'clock on Facebook Live, immediately thereafter on YouTube. Cannot wait to talk to you then.